So thanks to everybody who's here today. Thanks to all participants and a very warm welcome to you to our monthly research talk of May. Today we will talk about the Erasmus Plus program and especially about the parts of that program that are directed to international PhD students. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have all of you with us, and I would like to invite our three panelists because today we are, we have a bigger round of panelists that introduce Erasmus Plus to you. To turn on their camera. And it's perfect that Johannes Abele starts because I would like to introduce them to you in alphabetical order. So Dr. Johannes Abele is an expert for the program Erasmus Plus, and he also, besides being this expert for the program, he works at the University Universität des Saarlandes in German, and his field of expertise beneath Erasmus Plus Erasmus Plus is the mobility of PhD students and the STEM field. And also with us today are two colleagues from the DAD who are also experts and administrators of the Erasmus Plus program, Irene Fandio from the DAAD and Michaela Lanaro from the DAAD. So welcome to you as well, and thanks for holding this webinar today. Just a few words about me. I'm also from the DAAD. My name is Anne Knab. I work for the Research in Germany initiative, and we inform international scientists about their research opportunities in Germany. So, and we have half an hour for this online talk today. And that's why we start right now with the presentation. And after the presentation, there will be time for all your questions you have about the program. If you're interested in doing it, you can ask any question you have about the application process. And also what happens after you, for example, receive a confirmation. And I already see that there was already posted a question in the chat, and I think we can answer it with the presentation. I think it will be more clear when the presentation starts. So I switch to the slides and give the floor to Michaela Lanaro.
Yes, hello. Welcome also from my side. I will tell you a bit more about the program in general, who can participate, what options you have, and what the requirements for the program are. So I think you might have heard about the Erasmus program. It is a household name nowadays. It is a long-standing program. As a matter of fact, this year we have the 35-year anniversary of this program. The program was established by the EU to promote education, and now it also contains youth and sport in Europe. And the program is funded in a 6-year period. Now we are at the beginning of this Erasmus generation. You see we have a really big budget. It's nearly double the funding compared to the previous generation. And every generation also has a focus on different topics. For example, this generation focuses, for example, on social inclusion and green mobility. So, which countries can participate in the Erasmus program? You might think of the Erasmus program as mainly focused on Europe, but nowadays it's more or less a worldwide program. Here you see a list of all the countries who can participate in the program, who are eligible to participate, and it's not only the EU member states, but it's more or less all the states worldwide. And as PhD students, you have a lot of options to participate in the Erasmus program. You can participate in the activities for students. Those options are open for students in their bachelor, master's and PhD. And you can, for example, participate in a study abroad period or a traineeship. And as a PhD student, if you are employed at the university, you can also take part in the activities for staff. For example, making a teaching period or a training period, and I will explain a bit more in detail about those activities, and my colleague now will explain more about doctoral mobility.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Irene from the DAD, as my colleague already said. In the Erasmus program, as she said, student mobility can be carried out in any field of education, from short cycle, bachelor, master, or PhD level. As you can see in this slide, doctorate candidates are treated equally independently of their status, student or staff. The main objective of the doctoral mobility is to help better link the world of higher education and the world of research and innovation. As a PhD student, you can participate in an Erasmus exchange and go abroad in a relatively easy way. The funding opportunities for enrolled doctoral students include long-term, short-term, and blended mobility. Long-term mobility period abroad can last a minimum of 2 months, that is 1 academic term or trimester, and a minimum of exactly 12 months. The short-term mobility, which is really new for doctoral students, requires a physical period abroad of 5 to 30 days, and an additional virtual activity is then optional. Short-term doctoral mobilities can also be carried out as a blended mobility. What do we mean by blended mobility? Blended mobility is a combination of physical mobility of 5 to 30 days abroad with a virtual component facilitating a collaborative online learning, exchange, and teamwork. There is no time limit for the virtual phase. That means any student can also undertake blended mobility by participating in a blended intensive program too, with a compulsory virtual component. We should also take note that the virtual portion of the mobility is not funded, only the physical. As my colleague already said, PhD students with an employment contract, this is very important, with their higher education institutions can also participate in the Erasmus program. What are the conditions? Even if you are a PhD student, to study abroad with Erasmus, you must be registered in a higher education institution and enrolled in studies leading to a recognized degree qualification. Doctoral students may complete their short-term or long-term mobility programs at institutions with which their home university or faculty have signed a so-called interinstitutional agreement on student exchange. I mean PhD students, so in a given academic year. The period of study abroad must be part of the student's academic program that leads to a third degree in your case, and the period of study abroad may also include traineeship, such as, and such a combination creates, as you know, synergies between the academic and professional experience abroad. Let me show you the next slide. Recognition, that is a very important aspect in Erasmus. Before the study abroad, you are sending and receiving higher education institution must sign a learning agreement for studies to ensure a transparent and efficient preparation of the exchange abroad, as well as to agree on how activities successfully completed abroad will be recognized. That was not the case in the last program generations. You will also receive the Erasmus Student Charter explaining your rights and obligations with respect to your period of study abroad. After the study period abroad, the receiving higher education institution must approve you must provide your sending institution with a transcript of records. We know this also is a bit different with PhD students, but this transcript of records confirms that the agreed program has been completed and acknowledged, and your higher education institution has to also acknowledge the results. Your higher education institution must recognize the credits using the European credits transfer system or an equivalent system. It matters which system you have in your country, and this must be agreed in a learning agreement before the mobility, as I said. If your higher education institution is in a program country, those are European countries who are normally in the Erasmus program, your mobility period should also be recorded in a so-called diploma supplement. So money, the grant. The purpose of the Erasmus grant is just to co-finance your mobility period abroad. The grant does not cover the expenses in full. You may receive an Erasmus grant as a combination to your travel and living costs abroad. The amount will be defined in the Erasmus grant agreement, which the student will sign after submitting the application documentation. The grant agreement, this is a contract, I would say, specifies the duration of the mobility, the amount of the grant, and other rights and obligations. In some countries, grant amount may vary from year to year and is calculated according to each student's destination country and length of study or work period abroad. As an Erasmus student, you are exempted from fees for tuition, that's very good, registration, examinations, and charges for access to laboratories or libraries at the receiving institutions. But small fees for insurance or student union membership may still apply. That's mostly the case in Germany. We also have extra support, or the so-called top-ups for students going to a traineeship, or students from disadvantaged backgrounds or from outermost program countries or regions. And if you want to know more about our grant levels and fixed rates, you will find that in our Erasmus program guide. How can you apply for Erasmus? You can apply through the international or the Erasmus office of your home university. You must be selected by your home university in a fair and transparent way. For more information about this, we have a link of our Erasmus coordinators in Germany, and we also have a link about the Erasmus national agencies in Europe. Okay, then I will give over to my colleague who will then explain the staff mobility for doctorate students.
Yes, thank you. Like I mentioned before, if you are employed by university, you have additional options. You can also participate in staff mobility. And as a staff, you can either do teaching periods at a higher education institution or also a training period for staff is optional in the Erasmus program. And not only you can do this at a higher education institution, you can also do this at other organizations, including businesses, public bodies, NGOs, or research institutes. So how long can you participate in those activities? Depending on which countries you are going to, it starts from 2 or 5 days and it goes up to 2 months. And what are the requirements? That's important. Your university already has to have a pre-existing interinstitutional agreement, so there has to be some kind of contract or agreement between the two universities. And additionally, you have to sign a mobility agreement. What is a mobility agreement? It is sort of contract signed between you, your university, and the receiving institution, and it more or less tells what your learning goals are, what your rights and responsibilities are, but also how it will be recognized. And now for the financial support, I think that's something that most of you are interested in. The Erasmus program supports travel and living costs for your time abroad, and they depend on various factors. For example, one is the country you're going to, other is the distance between the countries, and a more detailed list you can ask from your Erasmus coordinators. So here's a small overview of all the possibilities for PhD mobility. So you can participate in study activities, in internships, but also if you are employed at a university, then you can also take part in the teaching and the staff training. And we listed some useful links here. You can read a lot of information about the Erasmus program, reach out to your universities, to the Erasmus coordinators, and yeah, take the opportunity to ask us questions if you have some now, and we'll be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. That was, I think, already, yeah, not I think, I'm sure that was a lot of useful information. And now, of course, the participants can ask any questions they're interested in. And if you don't need the slides for the moment, I would skip to this view. But if you need them, I can skip directly back. As there is not a question in the chat yet, I would like to ask a question, yeah, I'm sure I know that there are many people looking for funding opportunities for their PhD or postdoc stay. So, could you give participants a recommendation for for a successful application? You said before that the application is via the portal, or not via the portal, via the institution that the persons are studying at or doing research at. But are there any general rules, or does it differ? How does it work, the selection of the people that receive
I think Dr. Abela can help us with the question because he works directly at the university.
Yeah. Maybe I'll answer. The first main question is where you actually want to study abroad. As you've heard, there are some formal regulations, so the universities must have an inter-institution agreement. So the first question is, where actually do you want to study abroad, or do you research abroad? If you have a specific university in mind, and if you aren't sure whether there is already an inter-institution agreement, please contact your international office in order to get the information. And sometimes there is some flexibility to make a new inter-institutional agreement, or to find another way to organize such a placement. The second important point is that you have something to do when you study abroad. So you will have to select either some courses, some programs, or you will have to specify some lab work, some research, etc. All this information is important for the learning agreement, so a formal document where you specify what you actually want to do abroad. Again, the Erasmus program does support the for example, research work at a partner university, and sometimes it isn't possible to specify in detail what kind of research you actually want to do. It is possible to do a part of a thesis abroad or doctoral work or some laboratory work abroad. It helps if you can specify these aspects of your PhD. But again, we all know that a research PhD needs some flexibility, and the international office will accommodate for that. Maybe just because there was this one question in the chat, can non-German PhD students benefit from the new Erasmus program? The colleagues of the DAAD have already mentioned this topic. Only to specify, the only requirement is that there is some formal link to the university, either by an enrollment or by a registration or by a work contract. So the Erasmus program doesn't look at the nationality of the students. The important starting point is a formal link to the institution.
Okay, thank you. That's, I think, an interesting point that you mentioned, because I have a follow-up question to that. So, for example, important is my home in university and the host university I'm interested in. So, is it correct that it doesn't matter what my nationality is? So, when I'm doing research at university in Spain, for example, it doesn't matter if I'm from Spain, only that my home university has a partner university in Germany. So that's is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's perfect. So it depends on the home or my employer or my home
Yes.
university.
Just one more aspect. So the universities don't care about the nationality of the students. However, the students have to follow the visa regulations of the host country. And sometimes it is a bit more complex for non-European students to participate in an Erasmus exchange, or, for example, there's also an Erasmus, part of the Erasmus program beyond the borders of the European Union, and then it is sometimes a bit more complex to follow the visa regulations of the host country. Yeah, that's the only thing one must have in mind.
That's true. That can be complicated. That's true. Are there support structures, or I know that most universities in Germany have such support structures, like welcome centers. So is this something that's regulated by the host universities, or does Erasmus also offer support with the
Yes, the
visa?
host universities have to help the students in their visa issue, and also for accommodation when they are coming, because the home universities sign this in their own Erasmus Charter for higher education. That is a contract they sign before being in a position to do Erasmus.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. So when I summarize what you said, Dr. Able, it is for successful application, it's important to know what I would like to do in my research stay. And I think, but that's something that's actually with each and every PhD you're doing abroad. I mean, it sounds complicated, but actually yeah, I just wanted to point out that this is something if you plan to do your PhD abroad and also want to apply for another program, you also need to have a plan of what you're doing, and that's the most important yeah thing you need to prove actually. So yeah. First, that's why I also just wanted to underline this. It's if you know what you would like to do, it's always yeah a good chance for a successful application. And I would like to mention that we have yeah many. We also had so right now you are listening to the monthly research talk, but we also have a webinar series that are yeah, a bit longer and more about general questions, and they deal yeah, with a general topic, for example, on how to do a PhD in Germany. And I would like to link to post a link to that webinar if you have further questions about the more general things. So I just posted it here.
Maybe if I just, if you allowed, that I add some
go ahead.
two
Thanks.
further points. You've asked for further support structures. Well, the first support you will get at the international offices of the home university and of the host university. I would like to refer to another institution, the Euraccess network, which supports international careers of researchers, and they provide also plenty of information for mobile academics, apart from the information which you will get on the websites of the DAAD, which are really excellent. Maybe one last point. I've emphasized the flexibility of the international offices and that there are quite plenty of opportunities. To refer to some limitations, sometimes there are some very, very popular partner universities. And in some cases, it is simply not possible to accept all applications for an Erasmus exchange for one specific partner university. I would recommend just have a look if there are alternatives, if there are any other interesting universities where you can pursue your research, and so that you might find an alternative placement.
Thank you so much, Dr. Avele. Anyway, I wanted to close with take-home messages because having a look at the clock, it's already 2:30, and as you know, this online talk is intended to be quick and useful, and we wanted to close the session at 2:30, and now is the time or my time to ask you for your take-home messages. So could we say this was your take-home message, or do you also have a last recommendation, short recommendation, Dr. Avele?
Yeah, an Erasmus program provides excellent opportunities for study and research abroad, and I simply want to encourage you to make use of these opportunities. There are some formal regulations which you'll have to follow, but don't be afraid of this formal paperwork. It's not too much and it's not too difficult. And don't hesitate to contact the international office for any requests or support you would like to get.
Okay. Thank you so much for these motivating words. Now I would like to ask Michaela Lanaro for your take-home message.
Yeah, I want to thank all of you, and yeah, just take the opportunity. I think you will have a great time. It is really a good option, so take a look at our links, and yeah, good luck with it.
Thank you so much. Just one sentence. The slides will be offered after the closing of this webinar in this webinar room. So just stay here for a few more seconds. And now I would like to ask Irene van de Joh
Thank you all for
take-home
participating
message.
in this talk this afternoon. My take-home message will be, even if you don't have the time to participate in a long-term Erasmus mobility, in a new program generation, you have the possibility to participate in the short-term mobility, which is between 5 to 30 days, which means there is always time for such things, and you won't regret participating in the Erasmus program. Thanks.
Thank you so much, and that is also so true. So yeah, I can also underline what all you just said. And I would like to close with my own take-home message. There is a lot more information online. If you are interested in a research stay in Germany, just also perhaps have a look at our website, Research in Germany. I just posted it here in the chat, and we have a lot of information for international scientists online. So, and with these words, I would like to thank again to my three experts of today. Thanks for taking the time and for giving us these insights. Thanks also to the participants of now and also to the participants that will watch the recording. And we see each other not next month because there we will have our big webinar series and the monthly research talks will start again in July, and I'm hoping to see you there. And now I say goodbye, everybody, and I switch to a short questionnaire and the download sheet. So goodbye. Thanks for your attention.